Hey folks, I'm Mark Ryan. This is Super Reveal, and this is the Aful Performer 8. That's right, the name of this IEM is Awful, and because of the naming of this company, it's kind of a meme. But also it's interesting that like so many people ask me to review these IEMs, which is maybe not that uncommon, but I think it's pretty uncommon how frequently people ask me to review these. And it's so, I don't know, they're just kind of a meme in a sense, but I earlier this year spent some time with Performer 5, which is the cheaper model to this. It was actually pretty decent. And now after having spent some time here with the Performer 8, happy to, well, I guess say that I think this brand is more than just a meme, okay? And let's talk about exactly why. So first of all, what this IEM is all about. It is a hybrid driver IEM. Hold on, let me pull up the driver configuration. I believe it is a 1 dynamic driver and 7 balanced armature configuration. And the price is coming in at around $370, which is actually kind of an interesting price zone because I think like north of the Moondrop Blessing and then like south of $700, there's room for a lot more IEMs, frankly. And I think this $370 price point is ripe for some more competition. So I'm pretty glad to see the Performer 8 here taking that spot. So that's just, yeah, kind of the basics of this IEM. Let's get into talking about the physical form factor of this. We'll start with describing the cable, and I will also just say I only have this on loan, so I actually don't know what comes inside the box of the Performer 8. It's kind of the same case with the Performer 5, just had them on loan, but the cable here is, I would say, pretty decent. It's a little bit on the kinky side, a little bit thin, and I don't really love the way that the preformed ear hooks look, but I don't know, generally pretty standard, basic. You know, I got 3.5 millimeter connector down here, pretty standard 2-pin connectors here. If you wanted to swap your earpieces or swap your cables, you certainly could. The connector is not recessed at all, so it should be pretty easy to find 2-pin cables that'll work with it, although generally the ones that have no recession here are going to look a little bit tighter. See if I can get this thing back in there without breaking it. What did I say about the cable? I don't know. It's a decent cable. I just don't love it. It does at least have a very functional chin slider, which I like to see. It's got small hardware, which again, I like to see. So pretty into that. It's mostly just a little bit on the stiff side. If I were daily driving this IEM, I would be tempted to replace the cable, I'll be honest, but mostly it's just for aesthetic reasons. It's not at all about sound or anything if you're curious about that. But let's talk about the earpieces now, which are one of my favorite parts of the Aful Performer 8, and they're also one of my favorite parts of the Performer 5. I think this company's just doing really nice shells. Okay, maybe I don't love the aesthetic, it's fine. It's a little bit on the busy side, but it's got a bit of a depth to it. Let's see if we can get the light to catch it so you can see. Yeah, you can kind of make it out there. So it's got a bit of a depth to it. It's got, you know, some glimmer, which is a-okay for me. But more importantly, what I really love about these shells is the fit. And I will do a fit demonstration for you in a little bit, but while we're here close up on the camera, just kind of wanted to highlight, you know, the shell size on this I would describe as basically a medium-sized shell. It was not large. I don't think many people will have an issue with the size on this thing, although the nozzle is somewhat on the long side. You can kind of see how deep this thing will insert. I'm using somewhat of a long ear tip. You could put a shallower ear tip on there and get a shallower fit, and just to kind of get a sense for what the girth of that nozzle is, I would say that's pretty moderate in girth. There's also, you know, no lip or anything holding on the tips, but I didn't have any issues with the tips falling off in here. And for those that are curious, the tips that I'm using here are SpinFit's W1 tips. The one thing that is interesting about Aful's build, and this was true of the Performer 5 as well, is that they don't seem to put any sort of mesh or grill on top of the nozzle. I guess I can't see totally down inside there. I don't know. Maybe that is pretty normal. Yeah, you're definitely not going to see it here on camera, but it does look like a pretty normal kind of like 3-barrel nozzle there. It's just that it then has, this is going to be the wrong word to describe it, but somewhat of a foreskin, I suppose, that is protruding up there, and it makes it look more open than it is, I suppose. All right, that's enough of that language. Let me actually do a fit test as promised, so you can see what this thing looks like inside my ear, and I will use the correct one so that you can get a proper evaluation. I'll pose my ear hopefully somewhere close to being on camera. But yeah, fit is really quite nice on this IEM. Not only is it comfortable, let's say the ingress egress is nice and easy, as you saw. I don't have any issues with this thing sealing overly aggressively or driver flex or anything like that, which I dig. And because of all the folds in the design, it locks in and it's really secure in my ear. Now, of course, not everyone's ears are built the same. It's possible that these particular folds, this little anti-trace catch, this little nubbin back there won't work out for you, but for me, they're great, honestly. I really am a big fan of this type of a shell. This would be my favorite type of shell, if I'm honest. The material itself just seems like a generic semi-translucent plastic. You can't really see inside of it, although if you bend the light, you can see that there is, I think, some light getting through, or is that just reflections? I don't know. All right. That is enough talk about the physical stuff here on the Aful Performer 8. Let me now talk about the sound. And just to make things a little bit more visually interesting, I will pull up the frequency response graph as I struggle to get this thing to balance in a way that catches the light just oh so. That's what we need. We need the balance. Come on, give me the light catch. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, let's take a look at the frequency response, which I've got on this button. That's right. So yeah, this is up on squig.link right now if you want to go check it out for yourself and compare it with some other IEMs. But for now, we'll just talk about what this looks like compared to my general neutral target. And generally, when it comes to the Performer 8, as with the Performer 5, you should expect a mostly neutral sound signature. So if you're looking for a big, exciting V-shaped sound signature, you're looking for something that's like super bass dominated, that's not going to be what you get here with the Performer 8. Although there is some, excitement and some bass added into it. But yeah, I would say this is kind of a low contrast, but slightly on the bright side, slightly on the bright, a little bit on the lean side, neutral, that it does have a tasteful little sub bass boost. And I think that the way that the bass on this is coming up, it makes it so that it's not like overly lean in the lower mid range. Kick drums and stuff still have a nice sense of body behind them. You feel it. It's not, the same that you're going to get on a really big V-shaped sound signature, but it's there. It's not missing. I don't mind at all the way the bass is tuned on this. And in fact, I would say this up to here is like tuned really quite stellar for me. And maybe again, I don't want to overly rely on frequency response graphs to explain everything that I'm hearing. But if I were to use this frequency response graph to explain everything I'm hearing, I do hear it as a little bit on the bright side. And possibly that could be explained by, the upper mid-range, kind of in the vocal region, just being a little bit on the relaxed side, and then getting a little bit of emphasis here in sort of the lower treble region. And I think that kind of double whammy, very small amounts, but when you do them both at the same time, is giving it that, again, slightly brightness. Now, I would not describe the sound on this thing as sharp or aggressive or uncomfortable at all by any stretch of the imagination. I would describe this brightness as definitely slightly bright. Mostly this is, again, neutral with a slight sub-bass boost. But yeah, that's the general tonality on this sound. And now when it comes to the actual listening experience, what I really like about this thing is actually the technical performance. It is quite solid. The imaging is what I think is the best. It just has a really good sense of separation, really good sense of layering between the different sounds. And just good sense of positioning as well. And that's kind of one of my favorite things when it comes to audio. I would also say that the bass physicality, the bass amounts here are really good for my sense, or my preferences. Some people, again, that are looking for a lot of bass might be feeling it's a bit lacking, but I don't know. I think it is pretty satisfactory. And just generally, I would say it's kind of a clean, somewhat exciting sound, but mostly on the neutral end. If I had any complaints about the sound here on the Performer 8, I would say that maybe timbre-wise, it's got like a slight artificiality to it, if that is even a word. And I don't know, maybe just like lacking a little bit in sort of that mid-range texturing and nuance that I really like. So if you're like really into vocal content, you're really into hearing kind of like just those really small nuances and breaths, and graveliness and voice and like all that kind of stuff. Like the Performer 8 does a pretty decent job of it, but it's not where it excels. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I think that's going to do it for my thoughts here on the Performer 8 out of 5 stars. I think at $380, this is a pretty compelling little package. I give it 4 stars out of 5. And if you want to check it out, I've got it linked in the description down below. And while you're down there, if you haven't already, please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ding the YouTube bell, and join me and the rest of the community on Discord, which I've also got linked down below. We're there probably way too much. We're there all the time talking about audio stuff and just generally some pretty good people. So if you've got questions about audio, you want some purchase advice, or you just kind of want to shoot the word I don't want to say on YouTube, join us in Discord. Otherwise, I'll catch you on the next super review. Have a good one.